however, what I'm going to feed in is stored glycogen that's stored in the muscle cell, right? It's sitting right there for me. If I'm going to use glycogen, it just so happens that when we start to break down glycogen, the first step of the breakdown equals the first molecule in the glycolysis chain. So I don't have to use any energy to put glycogen into the metabolic chain. Okay. Then, breaking down from step 1 to the point at which it splits in 2 takes two ATPs. When we get to here, which is around halfway for those of us that aren't biology people, right? The molecule that's left at this point splits in 2. So now I have a 3-carbon molecule over here and a 3-carbon molecule over here. Each of those molecules is going to keep breaking down. And now finally we get some ATP. So in the second half of glycolysis we start making ATP. So we make 2 here and we make 2 here. And when we finally finish breaking down our glucose or our glycogen, we end up, we're going to call it pyruvate. We're going to end up with pyruvate. Pyruvate is a 3-carbon molecule that becomes important later on. That should be 1. Sorry. So if I start with glucose, right, I have a net 4 ATPs for 1 molecule of carbohydrate. Right? If that carbohydrate was glucose, I needed 2 to make 4, so my net is 2. If my carbohydrate was glycogen, I only needed 1 to make 4, and so my net is 3. So glycogen gives us a little tiny bit more ATP, but it takes a little bit longer to get it into the chain. Remember that glycogen is loads and loads and loads of glucoses stuck together. So obviously if I'm going to use glucose, it will be quicker, but I don't get quite so much from it. Right? So stored glycogen is important. While I'm doing all this, we give off our friend hydrogen. I think 2 hydrogens on each side. So we have this acidity problem again, right? We're still working anaerobically. We're making more energy now, although not a lot, really, right? And I don't get a lot of ATP out of 1 molecule of carbohydrate, but I'm still creating this acidic environment that is going to cause fatigue. which is why I can't go for more than 3 minutes. Right? Sooner or later, the environment within the muscle cell becomes intolerable and my production of ATP slows down. And if my production of ATP slows down, my force production decreases and I slow down. Right? So if you think about how fast can you run 100 meters? Okay? Now, if I told you to run 800 meters, could you run as fast for 800 meters as you did for 100 meters? Right? No. Doesn't matter how strong you are or what shape you're in. You cannot run as fast for 800 meters as you can for 100 meters because we switch systems, right? This system has to break down carbohydrate and we create hydrogen. So I have to go slower. Okay. Now, where are we? A couple more minutes and then we're going to call it a day. The pyruvate now is the substance for energy production, right? But it depends on what we do at the end of this bout of activity, okay? If we're only going to work for 3 minutes or less, then this pyruvate is going to pick up a hydrogen and it's going to turn into lactic acid. Is that colour not working, Lauren? You've got to be able to see, my friend. Tell me if it doesn't work.
Oh, it looked, I can see there. Can you look?
Right? It's going to pick up a hydrogen. It's going to turn into lactic acid. But lactic acid is highly unstable. And it very, very quickly shifts into lactate. So when coaches or media items or magazines tell you that lactic acid is the cause of fatigue, they're wrong. That's not true. It plays very little role. It's mostly the hydrogen, right? Because the lactic acid shifts into lactate, and lactate very quickly then gets shuttled out into the bloodstream, where we can measure it, and we'll talk about that later. Okay, so blood lactate levels increase for athletes who are working within the glycolytic system. They don't increase for athletes who are working in the ATP-PC system. You don't produce lactate in that system.
So once that lactate ends up in your blood system, you don't feel that, or do you feel that? Like, actually, you know, like when you say you've built up lactic acid, it's actually lactate. Is that what you feel, lactate? Lactate
is the end product, dumps into the bloodstream, and actually if this was a ex-phys 2 or a graduate class, we would talk about something called the Cori cycle. And the Cori cycle is a system that recycles lactate and can turn it back into glucose. So lactate, again, when I was your age, we didn't know about the Cori cycle. So lactate was considered a waste product of glycolysis. But now we know it isn't a waste product because it gets recycled and turned back into glucose, so we can use it for energy again. But that system is quite complicated, and we have enough on our hands with energy systems, so we're not going to talk about the Cori cycle. But if you're interested, I have tons of information on it, because the chap that found it was my ex-phys instructor at Auburn.
I'm just interested to what actually it is that you feel like towards the end of a game. Say you start to feel like soreness in your legs, like for soccer. What is
well,
that?
and your game is also a lot of aerobic work. So we've got a combination of systems working
More like
for
the second
you.
and third.
Yeah. Yeah, because you rarely stop
Yeah.
in a soccer game.
Yeah.
So most of your energy to keep moving around the field is aerobic. If you're jogging around or you're marking someone and then you sprint, then you're going to go back to this or this, depending how long you sprint for.
But you feel the soreness because of the hydrogen ions, not because of the lactate?
Mm. Yeah. And the damage that you're doing, right? So, we're going to end up with lactate if we stop at the anaerobic situation. Okay? When we move into chapter 3, we're going to find out that this pyruvate can also be the carbohydrate for system 3. So when we say we can use carbohydrate anaerobically or aerobically, when we're using carbohydrate aerobically, we're not using directly glucose and glycogen, we're using the byproduct of glycolysis.
Is it
That- yes.
Is it the same when you're weight training? Like, you know, when your muscles are sore after you lift and everything?
When they're sore after you lift, that's usually because of the damage that you've done to the muscle tissue. And when you tear the cell, then it releases substances that irritate the nerve endings, and then you feel pain. And swelling, because you move water into the muscle tissue, so then you've got this extra fluid within a restricted space, and that pushes against the nerve endings as well. So, that's enough for a Friday afternoon, all right? On Monday, we'll pick up from here, we'll talk a little bit more about anaerobic work, all right? Think about this information over the weekend, because quite frankly, when I was your age and we did this, I had no clue what my teacher was talking about, all right? It wasn't until I took it at grad school and then I had taught it for a year here, and I suddenly went, oh my God, now I get it, right? Because now I've done it 6 times, okay? So over the weekend, I want you to think about it, because if I need to go over anything, we need to do that sooner rather than later, because everything builds. And if you miss a building block, you're going to get down the road and go, who knows? Okay? All right, have a super weekend.